It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is it's a really nice spring day. Rain expected to move in tomorrow, but enjoy it while it lasts because it's pretty darn good weather. Okay, as most of you know, the decision has been made at Vandy about Jerry Stackhouse. Looks like he got fired earlier today, although Billy, help me with this. They have not put an official announcement out, have they?
No, nothing official yet.
Yeah.
But pretty much every reporter has it out that, they're expected to move on from Jerry Stackhouse.
In the end, and we're going to do a lot of coverage of it, Ron Bargatze is going to join us live here at the Ford Ice Center in a few minutes. Bottom line, I think as Candace looked around to see if there was any support for Jerry Stackhouse, there simply was none anywhere.
That's the bottom line.
That's kind of my take on it. Let's bring Kelly Holcomb in real quickly and say a quick hello because we got a lot of stuff to cover. Kelly, how are you?
Good, George. How you doing?
Good. It's a strange deal because obviously I have felt that this needed to happen. On the other hand, look, it's never
right.
When somebody gets fired, that's never a fun deal if you have any heart at all. I'm convinced, and I've been convinced for months because I was probably the first one calling for it in early December when it was obvious that this wasn't going anywhere good. That something had to happen anyway. This is the tough part of athletics.
It sucks because you're a human being. He's a human being. He's got feelings. He's got all the same feelings that we have. I've been let go several times. I can remember that. It's not a fun time because now you're having to wrap your head around. Well, am I going to be able to go somewhere else? Well, I got to move. I got to sell my house here. I got to get my kids in school. I mean, it's just a hard time. It's a tough time, and it sucks when that happens. But in today's world, I mean, hey, you got to produce as a coach and as a player, and if you don't, then changes are going to be made. And that's what's happened.
Yeah, it's a results-oriented business. He talked about that last night. I know we're going to get to Stack's comments.
Okay, let's get a scoreboard update, March Madness scoreboard update, and then you're going to hear what I guess we would say was Jerry's final act as Vanderbilt's head coach. You're going to hear the press conference last night after the game. Billy, go.
Yeah, let's do a March Madness scoreboard update brought to you by not March Madness, Lori Burnett Leland. Visit her at mortgageladyusa.com. Again, that's mortgageladyusa.com. A lot more games today. I mean, there's just a ridiculous amount of basketball going on right now. We'll roll through these finals. UConn, of course, the top seed in the Big East, beat Xavier earlier today, 87-60. Big win over the Musketeers. UNC in the ACC, top seed there. They beat Florida State 92-67. In the Big 12, Texas Tech tops BYU 81-67.
Wow.
And then in the Big 10 earlier today, actually, Michigan State beat Minnesota. Big win for Tom Izzo. They won by 10, 77-67 over Minnesota. SEC right now looks like Mississippi State is going to close it out over LSU. They're up by 10 with about 20 seconds to play 68-58. So this is going to be a big win for the Bulldogs because they needed at least one more to feel good at least about your chances in March. So looks like the Bulldogs are going to pull that one out late in the A-10. At half, VCU leads UMass big, 42-25. Maryland is up. Actually, no, they're down to Wisconsin big. The Badgers lead the Terps 37-21 late in the first half there. Also in the Big East, St. John's is up on Seton Hall right now, 39-31. And we've got a delay in the American between Wichita State and Memphis.
It just means that the first game went
okay,
long.
I didn't know if there was actually anything, but it said in red delayed, so I didn't know if there's actually anything going on. But we do have Memphis coming up here in just a few moments. And then Pitt over in D.C. leads Wake right now 25-18. So those are the big ones that are either done or going on right now. Arkansas and South Carolina coming up after this LSU-Mississippi State game, which should be a good one.
So, Billy, let me kind of set the scene for what you're about to see. It's in a fairly small room in the arena. It's moderated by a good friend of mine, Claude Felton, a wonderful man who is retiring at the University of Georgia after God only knows how many years. Claude Felton is a staple of Southeastern Conference stuff. It was a little bit unusual that Candace Lee was in the room for this final press conference. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of talk about his future and not nearly as much about the game.
Coach, have you been given any assurances by your athletic director that you will return next season?
No, we're going to sit down and talk after the season like we always do. I think it's obviously it's been a long season, not the season that we hoped for. But again, I'm so proud of my guys, so proud of how they competed and how they've grown. But we understand that this is it's a results business, and then the results hadn't been there. Obviously, there's some context behind those results, but at the end of the day, I understand that. I mean, and so we have to take accountability for that. We'll sit down and we'll discuss that, and we'll figure out the best way going forward.
Next question on the right, second row.
Obviously, you mentioned the season hasn't gone the way that you would have hoped. Do you feel there's anywhere you went wrong or would have changed if you could go back?
I'm able to play Malik Presley and J.Q. Roberts a little bit more earlier, but no, they weren't ready then. But they've gotten better and they developed and they've shown and they turned into starters at the end of the season. Again, there's a lot of context. It's not context. We're losing a player who was a starter for us last year with Achilles. Lee Dort, our biggest player, forced a bunch of guys to play out of position. But again, that's context. All that matters is results, and the results weren't what they were supposed to be. So you have to, dissect that and figure out what's next.
Other questions? Raise your hand. All right, let's go to the second row on the left.
Yeah, if you are to remain the coach here, what steps do you think you would need to take to make sure that these results like what happened this year don't happen again?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that could happen, man. There's a lot that goes in college basketball. It's changing landscaping, and the approach to college basketball has changed a lot, from the time that we started. When we first started here, we thought that just getting on par with the other schools, having the facilities and things like that would help. Now that's not enough. It's now, it used to be where you could go and, you make all the calls, you go and show kids as much interest as you can and do all those type things. Now you got to reach out to their agents. You know what I'm saying? That's where it is. I mean, in order to really get in the door, and you got to have the, NIL. That's a big part of it, and you have to be a player in that. And quite frankly, we hadn't been a big player in that yet. So, so those are the things that have to become a part of it. I mean, I love the way that we built it, though. I mean, I felt like we're going to be, ahead of the game. Vanderbilt's going to be ahead of the game because we're doing it with the right kids. We're doing it we built it with, freshmen. We built it with development, and that's how we'll, continue to do it. And, whether I'm here or not, I think that's the thing. I mean, these kids came here, and if I'm not here, I would, hope that they would be, because this is, it's about this university. It's about getting a first class, a world class education. And I would, never hoped that anybody had what I had coming in here with a, quite, pretty bare cupboard, and having to try to go out and find, this and that and the other. But I just think that this is a great nucleus of young guys that has a really bright future. And when things kind of balance out, when the dust settles with the COVID years and the NIL, it's going to come back to high school kids. Nobody's talking about high school kids right now. Everybody wants to get older. But I think once that kind of, again, the dust settles on that, the teams that decided to still invest in younger guys and invest in development will be the ones that win out.
Have time for a couple more, anybody? All right, let's go to the left-hand side on the aisle.
Yeah, Jerry Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat. Sorry, I was in their locker room, but I was wondering what you thought. Caleb Battle kind of took over for an overtime. I know you were scoring your day. Just wondering what you thought of his. I think he scored 7 in OT, got downhill a lot. What you think of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough cover, man. I think he had, he probably had 35 on us a few weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? We had no answer for him. I mean, luckily we were, he had a slow start in the first half, and that's why we were able to get some separation. But he showed in the second half exactly what he's capable of, and he made plays, made jump shots. But again, I really don't think that he was the key. The key that beat us tonight was, I think Brazil. And those guys that we wanted to, bait into taking some shots, and he stepped up and made them. He was 3 for 6 for 3. Like I said, Devo Davis was, 2 for 3. That's where the game was right there. But, definitely in that overtime, Khalif got downhill, and he's a tough cover getting downhill.
We're going to take 2 more far right, and then we'll come to you in the center.
Yeah, Stack, have you enjoyed this job the last 5 years?
I love my job. I love coaching. I love teaching kids. I enjoy the basketball part of it. I think, early on, we all have some mess ups. I probably messed up a little bit early on. I guess one of the things going back to the beginning, with the streak, which was a huge part of the fan lore here. And I guess I maybe said something after that game that, maybe rubbed some people the wrong way. But I just think it was, and then people didn't get to know me. I mean, they just saw from a few clips and didn't get a chance to see, who I am, see Jerry Stackhouse. All they saw is the big black guy that came from the NBA, right? And then I think that's, that wears the suits, right? And they don't really know the context of why I wear these suits. Well, I wear these suits because when y'all going to church on Easter Sunday, you know what I'm saying? If you ever done that, any of y'all know that. My mama used to, try to put suits on layaway, for us to go to church. And one time she didn't have the money to get that suit off of layaway. And I saw that disappointment in her. So that's why I wear these suits, because of my mama, for the time she couldn't see me in that suit that she had on layaway, she gonna see me in a suit every day. She turned 95 yesterday, and she can barely see, but when she look up at the TV, she gonna see me in this suit. So it's just like things like that that people, just again come. It's just, I think it was just some type of bias from guys that come from the NBA. I mean, that's always been a little bit of noise there. But I just think when people if you really get to know me, you understand who I am. That I cut my own grass. I do. I'm probably a lot more like you than you would think. But I just from the stature of where I come from, because I had a career before I got to Vanderbilt. That's a lot of people. That's all that they saw, and they didn't really take a chance to get to know me. And and maybe that's where the disconnect was with some fans are different. But for me, the basketball has always been the solace and what I love to do, and I love to teach.
Okay, we'll take the last question in the center aisle.
To follow up on that, Coach, in your 5 years here, do you feel like the city and this community has given you enough time and the chance to get to know you and why you wear the suits that you do, why you dress up the way that you do? Do you think you've been given a good enough chance?
Well, no, I mean, I think there's always context in that. Yeah, when you look at everything that has happened over there, we've lost if you wanted to take a deep dive in just the games missed from key people that we were counting on over this last 5 years, but it's a nightmare, right? And then we still found a way to continue to battle. And I know, the NCAA tournament is the ultimate goal, right? And we haven't done that, and I haven't done that, and I no matter what, those results are those results. And we got close last year. I'm probably the same, people that sit here and say that we never had made a tournament in 5 years. Those are the same people that was raising hell because we thought we were snubbed last year. But that's a part of the battle that you deal with, and that's part of being with coaching. But I think it's just being here. It's been a great experience. I'm so thankful for this opportunity. I came in here with an opportunity to grow. I've never been a head coach other than, in the G League. I've never been a college coach before. So I had an opportunity to come in here and grow with some people. Obviously, Malcolm Turner brought me here. And obviously when he left, Candace just picked up and our relationship just grew because she was growing in her role, and I was growing in our role. So it was just like, man, we're built for this. No matter what was thrown at us, we're going to keep battling and we're going to keep going at it. But at the end of the day, the results aren't there. So again, we'll sit down and we'll make make those decisions and see where we go from here. But nothing's going to change with me. Again, just getting to know me. I had a job since I was 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I used to go to work with my daddy cutting trees, doing bricklaying. I'm a worker. You know what I'm saying? So I had a job permit, a work permit when I was 14, so I could work early. So a job ain't never been my problem. So I'm thankful for this one. If I'm here and able to continue on with it, I'm going to give it 100%. If not, I'm going to be thankful for every moment that I've been here and use all of the experiences that I've had, all the great people that I've worked with to try to help me in whatever situation I am going forward.
Thank you.
That was the press conference last night down at Bridgestone. Kelly, here are a couple of thoughts that I had because I was in there. The first one was when he talked about his mom being 95. If you have a heart, that'll kind of get to you. And I wanted to stand up and yell at him, why didn't you do this when you got here? Right. Why did you do this in year one instead of putting up that Berlin Wall that you put up? Because had he started out more like this, he would have found much more support than he had. Because at the end, he had virtually none. I can only name less than a handful of people who I know that wanted to see him come back. Now, I want to straighten out one thing, a narrative that's been put out there about the NIL and how they really haven't participated. That's his fault. Okay? That is now part of the job description of being a Division I college head coach. Even though it sucks and it's gotten totally out of hand, NIL, that's part of the job of a coach now. It's not just the clipboard, it's shaking hands and kissing babies. And his unwillingness to get in there and meet up with that huge former player base that is here, that would be the first group that would have wanted to help him. Listen, he can put that out there all he wants about we didn't get in it. No, he didn't get in it. Because there were people out there, former player types, that if he had met them halfway, would have gone to the ends of the earth to help him. And I think that's one area that this whole narrative has really misspoken on, if there is such a word.
George, I couldn't have said it any better, man. That's the things that I thought about. The first thing I thought about was what you said about his mom. Like, why, if that's the first time you're saying that, why didn't you get that out there? And I can see a little underlying pleading for his situation with that. He wants to stay as the coach, obviously, and I can see a little bit of that. But why didn't you I asked y'all that yesterday, like, what is his deal in the community? And y'all told me that he didn't really have anything. You as a head coach, you have to do that. You have to be willing to go out, because when you come on hard times, and you will come on hard times at some point, when you go out and you make friends with the community and things like that, people are more willing to look past what just went on, and they're more willing to give you another opportunity. And you've always got to do that. And then, you're absolutely right about the NIL, George. That's just whether you like it or not. And I keep harping on it, just like the coach at Moorhead we talked about the other day, just like he was talking about. Like, I'm not going to get upset about it. That's just the way it is. And people come down and they pluck the Joni Brooms from me to go to Auburn, but he said, I'm going down to get NAIA guys. So, everybody's doing it. They're always looking for talent. I thought he handled that well, but you can see a little pleading that he was trying to do there to try to keep his job. And that's understandable, man, but it does. I don't know him, George. You and Billy, y'all have been around him some. I don't know him, man. Don't know anything about him. And I don't know if he's not approachable or not. He just gives that off. But it does suck, because I've been in those situations, man. I've been where I had to go talk to the coach. They let me go, and my life was up in the air. I didn't know if I was going to get another job. Didn't know if I was going to be picked up by anybody. And then once you do, then you got to figure out, like I said earlier, where am I going to go? I got to get all this stuff moved. I got to get my house sold. I got to get my family, up there. It's just, people don't really understand that. They just know that he's gone. They don't understand the details of it. And it sucks it sometimes.
Yeah, it's look, I've been in on several of these over the years. The hardest one I ever dealt with personally was Watson Brown's deal when he got fired in '90 by Paul Houlihan. And those of you who go back a ways know that that I got pretty heavily involved in that one. I'll say this: one of the best educations I ever got in my life was from Coach C.M. Newton, who was the best buyer of time I've ever seen. He was a, shake hands, kiss baby machine. He also endured an 11-game SEC losing streak with very few people calling for his head. And it taught me in my 20s an incredibly valuable lesson that, look, it won't save you forever, but it will give you the benefit of the doubt when there is need for the doubt. And, what ended up happening in his tenure at Vandy was Will Perdue came out of nowhere to become a superstar, and life all of a sudden was good for the next 3 years before he went to Kentucky. It was a really valuable lesson for me at a very early age. And I hope wherever Jerry ends up, whether it's back in G League, NBA, or does he ever pursue college again, take the shield off, show some people some of the human side, kiss a few babies, shake a few hands, be approachable. We'll go to break. Coach Ron Bargatze will join us. We'll talk about what is next for Vanderbilt basketball. Stay tuned.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. We are back at the Ford Ice Center where apparently, Coach B, you got the memo on the stripes.
I noticed Kelly might have gotten the memo, but he didn't comply.
Hold on a second. I don't think we've got you on. This is a tragedy.
Coach B, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh.
Oh, this is not good.
Oh, there, we should be good now.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's an administrative error there.
So, okay, let's bring Kelly in real quickly. Kelly, we sent out the memo.
Yeah, I'm not wearing, George, I'm not wearing what you wear, I promise. Sorry.
Well, that's fine. Thank you.
Coach B can do that, but not me.
He's sort of your new daddy, isn't he?
Well, I'll tell you what, Kelly's my new best friend, and he came down to see me at the state basketball tournament, and we got we're pretty tight right now, so don't get off balance, or we'll.
Yeah. Did you get him in the arena?
Could vote you down. That's right.
Okay, so let's and Kelly, feel free to jump in here where you want. In the end, as the speculation swirled in every direction, what ultimately do you think tipped it?
I think that the avalanche of people who were not in Jerry's corner made themselves heard, and I think that Vanderbilt was sensitive to that, and therefore we got the result we did.
Did you feel like I did listening to that why couldn't he have shown us that in year one?
Well, I think Jerry came from a background at North Carolina that was a little more I don't know what word to use, but didn't really prepare him for the down and dirty and the trenches of coaching on the college level. And I don't think he really realized some of the things he needed to do in the coaching world that he had been in. You didn't have all those things to be done. And so I think he had a pretty well route he wanted to go, and he went that route. and it probably had a lot to do with the leash he had.
Okay, help me with this. Wasn't Roy Williams part of a staff he played for?
Yeah, and the thing is that North Carolina historically has had such a strong group of fellow players and former players who were
Probably the strongest in college basketball.
Absolutely. They're a very tight group and have a lot of communication. But Jerry didn't seem to be in that I'd say he wasn't in the fraternity as much, and probably did not hear from a lot of the guys on the things he needed to do.
You remember, because you were part of the show where we put it on a while back. Because, look, I'm not going to lie about this. I called for Jerry's firing the first week of December. They had non-conference losses to San Francisco, to Western Carolina, and Presbyterian, and it was obvious Helen Keller could have figured out this team had a roster of mid-majors and not a lot of D1, and you knew it wasn't going to have a good ending. So with that said, I guess I'm curious, why didn't he reach out at some point stronger to the Roy Williamses, the Eddie Foglers, the Carolina bond that is so strong? Help me a little here. There's certain parts of this job I'm not really ready for.
Well, sometime when you live in somewhat of a bubble, you feel like you're 10 feet tall and strong as an ox, and you don't need any. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of education. And I think that Jerry never did realize how important other facets of the hadn't been that many years ago when Jan Van Bredikoff was hired to coach at Vandy, when the athletic director told him, don't get involved with the former players. They'll get you fired someday. And I think that's just the opposite at Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Billy, let me ask you this. Are we in a position to show my job description from however many weeks ago it was?
A little bit later we can. Not exactly at the moment.
So now Vandy's in the market to find a coach, and there are all kinds of different names out there, and we put out a list of them earlier. But number one at the top of the list, given that this roster is it's a mid-level OVC kind of roster. It's not an SEC roster. Doesn't this next guy either have to be a stud recruiter or hire a staff that has a stud recruiter or two, like you were many years ago?
Many years ago. I think that staff makeup is important. I think you've got to come in with some knowledge of the NIL and how it works, and be willing to dive in there and make sure you could compete with the other schools when it came to NIL money. But also the transfer portal is there too. It can help and not hurt. We saw a lot of former Commodore players around the country this year that flourished pretty well, many of whom would be nice to have had on this roster.
So doesn't that present Candace with a little bit of a challenge for whatever on that roster they deem worthwhile, for her to go to that group and say, look, give me a chance to do my job. I know you're thinking about it, but at least give whoever I hire an opportunity to sell themselves. Doesn't that have to happen?
Absolutely. It has to happen. And I think one of the first things that the new coach should do would be to look at the former players as an asset, get to know them. That may be where some of the NIL starts, because each of those players who were former players they have their set of social circles they run in. And in those social circles are a lot of people that can help Vandy in the NIL game that has to be played.
I have, and look, I'm not meaning this as a tooting of the horn necessarily. I have said to people that if you're looking for who has the most ties to former players over a 50-year period of time in Vanderbilt basketball, you're number one, because you coached with a group of them. You broadcast with a group of them. You've hung around this game. But I also have thrown out there that I might be second. I mean, with a weird background where I was a 23-year-old color announcer for one group. Hiring Willie allowed me to know the Elder Anglin McCaffrey group, my group that I went to school with. You and I both know the power of that group, and they've been very frustrated.
I have no idea what Paul Houlihan was doing when he advised Jan to stay away from the rebounders or the former players. However, in knowing a lot of these guys, you have so many guys who come to Vandy to play basketball and stay here the rest of their life. In the studio with us right now is Rod Freeman, who came from Anderson, Indiana in 1969 and has made Nashville his home, and he's been a vibrant part of this community and would do anything he could do to help Vanderbilt basketball. And I think this group of former players are that ilk. That they want to do well. They'll do. They're going to take the coach's lead in doing those kind of things. And so I think you got a little different crew here than you have in some group of alumni players.
Okay, let's go to this job description that I put out there, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. Willingness to sell the program externally. It is heartbreaking for people who grew up in and around Memorial Gym to watch that. And to me, this is an area where Jerry was a complete zero.
Well, that was something that certainly was not really involved in that I saw, and I would have seen it because I get asked probably throughout the basketball season. I probably get asked 6, 7, 8, 10 times a day about something that concerns Vanderbilt basketball. George, I sold programs in 1954 when Jimmy French came out of West High School and was playing for the Commodores as a freshman, was there as a freshman. And when they opened up with Sewanee, the first game of the year, which they took care of in easy order. But throughout all those 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, some of us have been in the wings pulling like crazy for success. And that's the kind of people you want to be a part of what you're going into this selling the program externally means.
Okay, Kelly, you've been listening to all this from Murfreesboro. My guess is you may have either some comments or some questions for either me or your new daddy over here to the right. Go wherever you want to.
Coach B, how you doing? Thanks for taking up for me, man. You don't want to look like George either, believe me. Okay.
I know.
Hey,
I know my limitations, and I know George's. So
we know George's limitations. He's got a bunch.
We haven't got that much time.
Yeah, we do. We got all the time in the world.
That's what I was afraid of.
So, he was a G League coach, but he never really made his way up through the ranks of basketball. Like he played, then he was a G League coach, then he came here. And with this new climate of college basketball, are you ever ready? My opinion on this, and George talked about this. My opinion on this is when you take your first coaching job, Coach B, you were probably not ready either, but you grew into it. But when you take a first coaching job in the SEC and that's your first really job in college basketball, that's kind of a tough gig, don't you think?
Absolutely. I had the good fortune of coaching 1 year at Belmont, then 2 years on the college level at Tennessee Tech. And so you really learn in that sort of situation. And both those jobs were what I'd call neophyte type programs. And there's a lot to learn, and you learn on the job. And then when I got to Vanderbilt, I certainly had a little background and understanding what it took and how you recruit and how you sell the program. And then, of course, in my opinion, one of the great things about Vanderbilt basketball is that not only do you know those players when they're here playing, but you have lifetime relationships with them. And you're part of that fraternity or that family that you build that following with. And And each one of those people have their own set of friends, and it grows from there. It's like a multi-level marketing program. You develop that kind of background, that kind of following as the numbers grow.
Kelly, it sounded like a pyramid scheme.
Everything's a pyramid scheme. I get so sick of people talking about that. A company's a pyramid scheme. Like the guy that's running the company, he's getting all the money, and then everybody, it just, I don't know, it's just whatever. But
you're bitter.
No, I'm not bitter. It's just reality. I get so sick of people talking about pyramid scheme. Well, everything in our society is a pyramid scheme. So relax, Francis. But can you get it done at Vanderbilt with the NI? Like, I was talking yesterday with Billy and George. Like, I remember growing up and watching, all those Memorial Gym games in Tennessee and Fayetteville, and I remember watching Vanderbilt, and they were really good back in the day. And with this new climate, that's what you think of. Like, we all know the struggles that they have in football. We get that. We totally understand that. But you always think about Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's men's basketball has always been really good. Now everybody thinks about Vanderbilt with baseball as well, but even the women have picked their game up, and they've been successful this year. But with the current climate the way it is, can you get enough people on the NIL list to give money to the program to get big-time recruits into Nashville?
That sort of thing comes because they're excited about something. If I were the new coach coming in, Vandy, the first thing I would do is ask Tim Corbin if I can have a couple hours of his time. Whatever you did, Tim, I'm going to try to build on that and do the same type thing. Tim Corbin has a group of people that are unbelievable in buying tickets, attending games, whatever you need, Coach Corbin, I'll try to help you out there. And Eddie Fogler could do that. Kevin Stallings did it. Roy Skinner did it before you had to do a lot of the things that are being done now. So Vanderbilt could definitely support an NIL program easily if people get excited and happy about the program.
What Tim could have never known when he got here, as he tried to build it and started building it quickly, what he could not have known then was that he would end up with a former player base that has $500 million worth of contracts with Major League Baseball teams. There are not a lot of schools that can say that. He's very good at what he does, and he has been able to elicit a loyalty with a group of players that are making a hell of a lot more money than I am.
I'm not sure about that.
I know so.
You're a walking, talking
whatever
NIL program.
Yeah,
George.
whatever. Nice try, though.
I got one more question, George. I want to know, because just listen to the press conference. Do you guys? We can bring Billy into this. Like, he was throwing up some of those players that got hurt, and that's part of the game. I totally get that. But would those players that he had talked about, would they have helped the situation out tremendously?
Can I start that one?
Sure.
Minimally.
Okay.
Listen, this line has been used over and over and over. It's not true. It is simply not true.
In terms of?
He has used this whole, we had injuries and Lee Dort this, and, I've heard about Lee Dort as though he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's not.
Well, I think any coach who's in trouble or not doing as well as they'd like to, that's very primary in his mind. If only we had had this guy and that guy available. But your injuries are a part of the game, and you got to play through those, and you got to have enough quality depth. If you look at the Vandy roster, you've got two very good guards, and it's pretty. Lubin has really made a nice comeback to become a player who can win in this league. But you need to go 7 and 8 deep of quality players, and then fill around them with guys who can practice well and contribute to winning on non-game days.
Well, and what he didn't talk about were guys like Jordan Wright, Quentin Malora-Brown, that left the program and could have stayed, Studi, and wanted to stay. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out with those guys. And I think that's even more important than, the lack of player retention for other guys more recently. Like those are some core guys that they could have and should have kept. It just didn't work out.
After the break, we'll run through a list that I put together.
I've got that. Yeah.
Okay. That I put together, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago. Look, I'm not saying it's perfect. Do I think the next coach is on that list? Maybe. We'll talk that list when we come back.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
You'll notice, Billy, if you will, go back to the start here at some wording that Billy has put together, and I'll explain why it's been put together that way. Stackhouse, not expected to return. 40 million different news outlets are reporting that he's been fired. To my knowledge, Vanderbilt hadn't put out anything.
No, and I don't know. I mean,
strange.
What's usually the case? I mean, Coach B, you mentioned, out of the break, during the break we were talking that usually about an hour difference between somebody getting it out there publicly that knew from a source and then the school announces something, fairly quickly after, right?
Absolutely.
Can I jump in on that one? Normally, Billy, what ends up happening, the decision maker, whether it's Preds, Titans, Atlanta Braves, whoever, they're going to make a change in leadership. Normally, they will go to a trusted public relations person, media relations department person, and say ahead Okay, I got to laugh. As a lot of you could tell, we've had some technical difficulties. Billy, let me read some of the comments. Some of them are hilarious. A friend of mine says, "We can't hear you." Kyle, that may be the best thing that happens to you today. Let's see. We apologized. Apologies. But then somebody said, hold on, where's the next one? Stackhouse took a golf club to your internet connection. Here's one. Have no audio. No kidding. Is your broadcast having technical difficulties? I would say that's accurate. Yeah. Kelly?
Wow. Yeah, we were having difficulties. I was texting you and Billy both back and forth. I didn't know what happened, man. Thought the apocalypse happened down in Nashville.
Yeah, we've had a couple of days of some weird stuff. Okay, for those of you who maybe are just joining us, every sports outlet known to man is reporting that Jerry Stackhouse has been fired at Vandy. In truth, to my knowledge, Vanderbilt hadn't put anything out there, which is kind of weird, but whatever. Back, I don't know, I want to say 5-6 weeks ago, Coach B would come on with us on Thursdays, obviously, and we put together a list of names of potential candidates once this situation played out. And Billy, are we in a position to run through those?
Yeah, I've got them. I'll run through them. Don't have a
Okay.
visual, but I'll run through
Okay.
what we've got. Number one you had was Dusty May from FAU.
Coach B, obviously, with him getting a program that lacks the kind of resources that the big names have, Dusty May has got to think about going somewhere. I'm assuming it'll be Ohio State. Don't have any proof of that. This would be a good time to check in on him.
That was an unusual firing at Coach Holman at Ohio State. That would kind of came midweek, didn't it? And but yeah, Dusty May obviously can coach the game, and he knows how to operate in today's world.
Okay, let's try that again.
I said,
okay, there we are.
So obviously, Dusty May knows how to operate in today's world of NIL, transfer portal. You know, and part of that transfer portal are the connections you have in the business. Who might be available? You know, having that communication, and I'm sure that was much more the case from just Dusty May's part than it was at Vanderbilt.
Okay, Billy, who was number two?
Number two was Chris Mack.
Chris Mack went to 9 NCAA tournaments at Xavier. We all know the Louisville mess that he walked into didn't have a happy ending. Chris Mack has not coached since then. His daughter, ironically, is Vanderbilt's first volleyball scholarship signee. So I'll put it out this way. They have to talk to him.
Absolutely. And he's in maybe the top 5 or 6 guys who are potentially available for them.
Numero uno dos tres.
Number 3 was Casey Alexander at Belmont.
A guy that we all know very well, grew up here, has a lot of local ties, is a name I think they have to at least investigate.
Absolutely. And Belmont stepping up to the Missouri Valley Conference, and Casey continuing to win 20 games a year. He can coach the game, and basically without any NIL and basically without a lot of transfer portal activity.
Number 4 was Richie McKay from Liberty.
Yeah, I'm very, very impressed with them.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more. I can remember watching him bring a team in that beat Bryce Drew's team at Memorial Gym, and I was like, wow, really well coached.
Excellent coach. He's from the what I'd call the coaching tree of the Bennett coaching tree. Dick Bennett, and who was the head coach at Wisconsin Green Bay for a long time, and of course his son has great success at the University of Virginia. but that's where Richie McKay comes from. He also obviously has had very good success at Liberty.
Josh Hurts from Indiana State.
Let me tell you.
Or Josh Schertz.
Schertz, yeah. He is look at the success. Great coach. I'll tell you what, you could take 3 or 4 guys, maybe 4 or 5 guys out of the Missouri Valley Conference and not bat an eye. They would be very successful on any level.
And you probably throw the guy at Drake in there as well, whose son, the coach is DeVries, and his son, Tucker, is a stud.
Mm-hmm.
No question about it. I mean, really good player. Belmont beat them earlier in the year and had them down 22 points at one time, and probably one of Belmont's best wins in the last few years. But, yeah, Casey and him going head-to-head was a pretty good checker game or chess game.
Princeton's Mitch Henderson.
What do you know there?
I don't know much about him at all. Not at all. Obviously, you as Larry Schmittou says, you judge a trapper by his furs.
Okay, well,
So-
that's good stuff. Kelly apparently liked that. Go on to whatever number we're at.
Yeah, whatever number. Tommy Amaker from Harvard.
Amaker did very well at Seton Hall. Kerry Keating's father hired him. He went to Michigan. That didn't work so well. See Jawan Howard. By the way, it'll be very interesting to see in the next 24 to 48 hours if Ward Manuel punts on Jawan Howard at Michigan. But Amaker's a name, Duke background on the staff with Coach K, that always seems to come up at Vandy.
Well, his name would be a natural. I cannot tell you how he runs his program. I know he's had checkered success, in his background, but he would get people's attention if he were named.
And then the last one you had was Alan Huss from High Point.
Yeah, and I would probably scratch that out and put Bucky McMillan from Samford.
Yes, I tell you, very good job at Samford and a good guy. You're talking about a guy in the community. That guy knows everybody in Birmingham and all the coaches, and he's put together a network there that's really helped him succeed.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Here comes the hand grenade, and then we'll let Kelly sort of jump into this as well. So Martin Newton, CM's son, who is the athletic director at Samford, took a real gamble, went to the high school level to get Bucky McMillan. Should Vandy be open to Drew Maddox?
Absolutely, yes. I think so. Drew has always been a guy that's out front. He's wonderful with people. He would bring all of the fans and the former players together immediately, and he understands and can coach the game. So what else could you ask for?
Okay, Kelly.
Well, the only thing I want to ask is this: like in this new age, Coach, if you're a coach, like normally back in the day when you went in, you interviewed with somebody, but now it seems like a coach has to interview the AD or the people that are interviewing him, because you want to know if you've got the support staff behind you, if you got the NIL money behind you. I mean, everything is a collective. So aren't you pretty much interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you?
I think that's the case, Kelly. And really, at more than just Vanderbilt's level, that's, I've always I remember Roy Kramer and I were on a road trip one day in a car in a plane going to a road game, and he says, and CM Newton says this also, George, the job seeks the man.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yes,
that's true. That is so true. So I don't. That's pretty much all I got. I was wondering if heck, I don't know what I was wondering, George. I totally lost my train of thought here.
Okay,
brother.
I'm going to butt in for a minute because you sort of asked a question earlier that gets to sort of what is the ceiling, because there was a time where Vanderbilt basketball was really the only game in town, and obviously that has changed. if you look through about a 50-year history of this program, the ceiling feels like, Coach B, that every once in a while you can get it to Sweet 16 status. But truthfully, the closest anybody has come to getting past that was Kevin Stallings' team that lost to Georgetown up in the Meadowlands.
I was there. Yep. But look back at Vandy basketball. Look at the peak years: 65, 74, 88. What was Kevin's year?
Let's go 2004,
Yeah.
but there were 2 or 3 really good ones in there.
I guarantee you one thing: Kevin Stallings looks awfully good right now.
Well, 7 NCAA appearances in 17 years. So that's kind of where it is. Kelly, anything left on your end?
Coach, just put this is what I was thinking. Good gracious, my mind is slow nowadays. You know that, Coach. But if you were coming to interview this job, what are you asking if you're interviewing for it? What are you asking the AD about this job?
Well, I think number one, in today's world, you got to find out if there is a potential of having a very organized NIL plan. Who's off limits? You know, there are a lot of development offices around colleges in the country that says you can talk to him, you can't talk to this guy, that guy, or so on. Is it development versus NIL, or development NIL within the NIL within the development program? So college administrators have a pretty tough time with that one.
Okay, let's take that whole question a step farther. When Dearmeyer first became Vanderbilt's chancellor, he was very out in the open to the tune of $300 million to say this school is way behind in infrastructure.
Yep.
We're going to infuse $300 million and we're going to do certain things. He was very out front. Today, I don't know what he is. I really don't. He's gone very quiet. You know, at some point we may learn whether he was a big factor in today's rumored decision or not. But that's one of the things, if I'm a coach, I want to know. I want to know, is the guy at the top committed to this? Does the guy at the top know if a basketball is pumped or stuffed? You know, how committed is he? How committed is the school ultimately to winning? And look, I'm going to be ugly here. This was a no-brainer decision, and yet it has been bandied back and forth for weeks. And I don't think anywhere else in the country would it have been anything but a no-brainer weeks ago.
Well, how does Vandy put together their collective that operates within the NIL money? Can you get guys in from other schools in the transfer portal?
That's a big one.
It's a big one. So those are the two questions I think I would ask. Number one, if I were pursued by Vanderbilt and I felt some interest in the job.
Exception admissions.
Yeah, I mean, they're all over the country. You're seeing people in schools of higher academic ranking who cannot get there any other way but to be on an exceptional admissions program. But it's also very possible that the people that come in under those circumstances can raise their game and blend in. Once you get in that classroom, can you compete? Can you do what the professors in those different classes expect you to do? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. There's a lot of people underperforming because they don't have to step their game up.
Kelly, here is one of the weirdest things for me right now as I go around the dial and watch games. Darius Garland has turned into one of the absolute studs in the NBA. And Vanderbilt basketball got thrown a real loop when they got a real 5-star and he only got to play like 6 games. Okay. And we never really got to see the Darius Garland that today is killing it for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, along those lines, at his old school, Brentwood Academy, Tyler Tanner is already signed, and he is an exceptional point guard. Not quite as big as Darius, but I'll tell you, could be a major first-team All-SEC point guard.
The other thing in the Bryce Drew era, listen, it cratered. We all know that. But there were 3 big-time recruits, none of which really panned out quite the way everybody hoped. Darius Garland, the kid Chateau, and the third one was Aaron Neesmith.
Yeah, and we see Neesmith doing the same thing in the NBA, even at a higher level than he did at Vandy.
Yeah, and the cupboard wasn't bare. Stack last night said that when he got there, the cupboard was bare. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bare. You know, they had Saban Lee, Aaron Neesmith, Simi Chateau had already left, but you know, they had some pieces there, and I know Neesmith got hurt, but the cupboard is a lot more bare for this coach coming in as opposed to what it was when he got here.
Who was Scottie Pippen Jr.'s recruiting coach?
Bryce Drew originally contacted him. Stackhouse apparently closed that deal.
Okay, got you.
But all those guys mentioned right there are plenty good. You got some NBA players there that you mentioned, or professional players. Vandy can build this thing back probably in 2 years to acceptable levels. Fans will come back. There will be you'll see the Memorial Gym kind of show itself as we've seen it so fondly in past years. So,
provided the hire is the right deal.
Yep.
We'll go to the break.
Stat of the day.
Are we going? Do we have a stat of the day?
We do.
What the heck? Let's do it. Let's put Coach B on the spot too. Kelly, you know, this time there are 3 of us that'll screw up.
Well, this is I don't think this will be super challenging, but it's got a little twist to it. But John English Antique Sports and Cards brings us the stat of the day. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, here we go. Vanderbilt finished this season with a 9-23 record, just the 3rd time since 1948 that they finished a season with less than 10 wins. When was the last season that happened? The last full season that Vanderbilt won under 10 games?
Well, we know the Bryce Drew year. Did they win? They were
0-19 in the SEC.
Right. And so I would say that would be 1 year. And
what year?
Well, I don't know the number.
Well, hold on. We're talking 5 seasons ago.
2016.
So we're talking 18-19 would be.
Yeah.
That is it. I thought y'all might go for because Stackhouse, the COVID year, technically went 9-16, but that wasn't a full season.
Technically.
So, yes, it was 2019,
Okay.
Bryce Drew, his last straw there.
Good picture. So are we going to go ahead, since we've had kind of a screw up today, we're going to go plaster bet of the day?
Let's do it.
Kelly, are you ready for this?
Yeah, but I got another question for Coach B.
Oh, good Lord. You and your daddy need to just meet for lunch.
We did.
I just want to ask him. I just want to ask him another question. I mean, I had a brain fart earlier, but I got all my questions out. But can you, like, Coach, if you were coaching nowadays, can you get it done with recruiting high school kids, or do you have to have a blend of both transfer portal kids and high school kids?
I think it's got to be the base as your expected high school kids, and develop that talent, and also develop loyalty from those people. But you do have to have, I think transfers now are such a big part of things. You got to dip your toe in that water a little bit too.
Gotcha. Perfect. I'm good.
All right.
I'm good, George.
And now
Thanks,
to the
Bob.
final piece of today's show that we breathlessly await.
Yes, Plaster's Bet of the Day brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000. Let's do some review first.
No,
though.
let's don't, because I was thinking about it earlier.
Tough night.
It was embarrassing.
Are these all upsets, too?
It was disgraceful.
Cal was plus 2.5.
Let me explain something. Cal gagged down the stretch. Stanford got it to overtime and just beat the snot out of them. Very bitter.
Meanwhile, Clemson loses by 20 to Boston College.
Pitiful.
Whoa, I saw that.
Yeah. NIT, baby.
Georgia, hey, those injuries, it'll get you every time.
Well, the last one, I admitted yesterday I shouldn't have done. Kansas played without Hunter Dickinson.
And McCullers.
Yeah, and they got smoked by Cincinnati.
Boy, Hunter Dickinson, he's been a great transfer.
He sure has.
He has really filled that middle hole up.
So here we go. I've got 4 for tonight. Okay, Kelly, you ready?
Sure.
Yeah, I can feel how excited you are.
Who cares?
We are taking Creighton minus 7.5 against Providence for one big reason. Creighton shoots the heck out of it. Providence, physically very tough, cannot throw it in the ocean. One shoots, the other does not. And in March, that's not a good combination. We're taking Creighton. You like that?
Sure.
Okay, good. Second one. We're taking Marquette minus 4.5 against Villanova. First of all, Villanova ought to be ashamed.
Yeah.
They squeaked by maybe the worst team in Division I, DePaul. They beat DePaul last night by 1. God, how the mighty have fallen.
DePaul just hired Chris Holtman, actually.
Did they really? Oh, good luck to him.
Yeah.
Hope he can recruit Chicago. If he can do that, he can turn it around. Marquette, I honestly don't know about Tyler Kolek. I know this. When he's healthy, they are really good. They're a 3 seed in the tournament that nobody wants to play. They will mop up the floor tonight with Villanova. Take Marquette minus the points. I'm going to skip one that I had earlier, and I'm going to go to Colorado. Colorado is starting to get some things done out west. Utah, this is a bubble game for them. They are sitting right on it. Taking Colorado minus the 3.5 against Utah. Kelly, those are 3 wins. Book it.
I thought you said 4. Did you not say 4? You said 3?
I bagged one of them. I'm not as comfortable.
Oh.
I've got late information. I'm not as comfortable.
We're not going to get into any Titan stuff today, big dog?
Okay, let's do it for a second. I know we should have.
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley.
Great
unbelievable.
Signing.
Man, I can't get over we talked about this at the beginning of the year, but I can't get over this is what happens when you got a big salary cap and you can spend a lot of money. You can turn this thing around pretty quick. And with the signing of Calvin Ridley, that gets a guy that, the unfortunate thing happened and he had to sit out, but the guy can play. He's a great route runner. He can take the top off of the defense, man. The guy can run. And then they get Mason Rudolph. Didn't they get Mason Rudolph, Billy?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, which is a perfect fit. He's not going to cause any problems. He's been a career backup, and he's a guy that came in last year, didn't play for a couple of years, came in last year, and when the Pittsburgh Steelers needed him most, he got those guys to the playoffs. And they probably shouldn't have been to the playoffs, but he got them to the playoffs. And I thought if he had stayed at Pittsburgh, he deserved he deserved an honest shot to be a starter. So, man, I think that Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan have done a really good job in this free agency period, man, and they look like they could turn this thing around pretty quick.
Okay, let's go to the other one. They signed the Steelers' backup quarterback, Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Kelly, it's really interesting to me because when Mason Rudolph got brought in at the end of the season to replace Kenny Pickett, the Steelers picked it up. One of the teams they played in late December was the Cincinnati Bengals. So Brian Callahan knows that Mason Rudolph is capable, if he has to be, to play. Is any of this an insurance policy that says, not sure about Will Levis?
I think you can always look at it like that. I'm not sure about Will Levis either. I mean, everybody's talking about him, and I think he could be a really good player. But he just got a little litmus test last year, and they weren't very good. So what's going to happen if they do become really good and then he starts slumping a little bit? I think Mason Rudolph is the guy last year that came in and he had a single game Pittsburgh Steelers completion percentage record last year in the game against Baltimore. Now I know Baltimore had already won everything and they didn't need to play anybody, but it was pouring down rain. And he was completing balls in the pouring down rain. So I thought he played really well. And yes, it is an insurance policy because he didn't play much last year, George Will Levis I'm talking about. And who knows? I mean, I know he's a hard worker. I know what Tim Couch has told me about him. I trust Tim, absolutely. But he's a young guy, and if he can't stay on the field, he got injured a little bit last year, and that was his problem his senior year at Kentucky. So, I mean, you've got to be on the field to play. And if you're going to be a franchise guy, you've got to stay out there. And I'm just not sure yet. Plus, I think it gives them a little bit more time to find out about Malik Willis. I mean, I don't think that they'll probably cut him, but I don't know. They might. I don't know what's going to happen there. But it puts a stabilizing quarterback in behind Will Levis and in front of Malik Willis. And I think I thought that was a huge transaction that they made with getting Mason Rudolph.
Agreed. Let me throw this at y'all. I heard they were talking to Joe Flacco. Flacco ends up going to the Colts. Would you have rather had Flacco as opposed to Rudolph?
I would not have. No, I would have taken Mason Rudolph. I really would, because he's a younger guy. Flacco came in and did some good things against, for Cleveland last year. But I think Flacco was, he's older. He's obviously won a Super Bowl. So yeah, you probably could have brought him in too. I mean, it's this and that, tit for tat with that. So, yeah. But I like the Mason Rudolph deal. I really thought he came in and played good last year, and I thought he proved he could play. And if something happens to the starter here, I think he could come in and win games for you.
I have a question for Kelly.
Really?
Yes,
so
sir.
Daddy's asking the son.
Yeah. Well,
the
Pops.
Come on, Pops. Exactly. No, I like the fact that Mason Rudolph would be more like the starting quarterback than Malik Willis would be. So the style of play seems more consistent with having a Rudolph back there than Willis.
I mean, that's true. My college coach used to tell me you could be too athletic, son, to play quarterback. And Malik Willis is one of those guys. Went to Auburn and then actually went to Liberty. I thought he'd gotten better a little bit last year, but he got into some games. He just didn't play good. So I just think the stabilizing factor and, in this day and age of quarterbacking, when you come to the National Football League, all these college guys want to run around. And when you run around in the National Football League at some point, even Lamar Jackson's found this out, you're going to get hurt. And you got to learn at some point as a professional quarterback to throw the ball from the pocket. Now, there's times where, there's some rollouts and there's some design rollouts. But, that's why I always use Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson did a great job because he's a pocket passer, but if you give him an opportunity to run, he takes that advantage. And
he knows how to slide, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, these guys on defense, I can't tell people they don't understand. They're trained killers. And I couldn't outrun any of them. I mean, there was a guy I use this example all the time. Courtney Brown. He was the number one pick from Penn State. He was a defensive lineman and he run a 4.5 40. I mean, what am I going to do with that? He can run me down. So, these guys are more athletic, obviously, than I was. But at some point in professional football, they're trying to, implement all this run game for the quarterback. But that's your franchise guy, and he's going to get hurt at some point. So I think you need a Mason Rudolph, absolutely.
In my prime, I could have run you down.
No, you could not have. I would still out juke you, Hoss. Promise.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, you're off tomorrow, right?
I'm going to see my mom. Yes, sir.
Okay. You tell her we said hello. Kelly,
I will.
We'll do this again with you on Monday.
Yes, sir. See y'all. Thanks, Coach B.
See you, Kelly.
Billy, a couple of quick scores before we get out of here in the March Madness scoreboard update.
Yeah, well, there's more than just a couple. Let's see here.
Bunch.
Right now, in the ACC, you got a good one between Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh leads by 3 late, 67-64, with just under 3 minutes to play in that one.
Both of them could use a win.
Yep, at the half in the American, Athletic Conference Tournament. Wichita State up by 2 on Memphis, 35-33, down there in Orlando. Houston up big on TCU at the half, 31-15. Arizona up big on USC right now, 39-22. In the SEC at the half, South Carolina leads Arkansas by 3, 38-35. So those are the big ones going on right now.
And that has a sponsor.
Yes, it does. All brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online at mortgageladiusa.com.
Okay, we're done for today. It was kind of a different show. Whatever plans we may have had, which included a lot more Titans coverage, kind of got derailed a little bit with the news. Let me say this again as we leave the air at 3:32 Central Time. The firing of Jerry Stackhouse has been rumored all over the place. There's virtually no sports organization that hadn't rumored it. Best as I can tell, Vandy hadn't put anything out making it official. I just say that.
But when this many people have it, I mean, are you saying there could be a hang-up potentially? Or
I don't know. I'm just stating facts. Everybody and his brother's reporting it, but Vanderbilt has not released anything. And to me...
Are you surprised?
That's a little weird. I'll just say it's a little weird.
Right when we get off the air, they will probably.
Well, maybe. Anyway, Billy, see you tomorrow. Thanks to all of you for joining us.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll see you tomorrow here at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue.